12 rounds of boxing for the WBA Junior Featherweight Championship of the World. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing blue trimmed in red and white. He weighs 122 pounds and his professional record, 38 victories, 28 by knockout with only 1 loss and 1 draw. He is currently the longest reigning champion active today, and he has the most consecutive defenses in bantamweight boxing history. But tonight, he steps up in weight to become a challenger. Ladies and gentlemen, from Laredo, Texas, introducing the challenger and reigning IBF bantamweight world champion, Orlando Canizales. And his opponent across the ring in the red corner, wearing red with white trim, also weighing an even 122 pounds. In his professional career, he has racked up 41 victories, 32 by KO, against 6 losses with 3 draws, and he's captured 2 world titles. Ladies and gentlemen, from Bayamon, Puerto Rico, presenting the 2-time world champion and reigning WBA Junior Featherweight Champion of the World, Wilfredo Vazquez.
I'm here to enforce the rule and regulation of the WBA. Estoy aquí para ejercer las reglas de la Asociación Mundial de Boxeo. Protect yourself at all times. Protégete todo el tiempo. Good luck. Buena suerte. Shake hands.
Well, Mr. Ramos doing that for his 21st time as a referee of a world title fight, and Canizales looks across the ring at the man he wants to steal the title from. He can only think 16 times in his career as the bantamweight champion there was somebody else on the other side hoping the same thing back right at Canizales. And now tonight he is the challenger. An unusual situation for Canizales.
One that he hasn't been in for almost 9 years now. That's a long time.
Longest reigning champion in boxing currently. And now, as he throws the first punch, he no longer is the IBF bantamweight champion. If he loses here tonight, he will not have that title after he steps out. He's got only a title to win here tonight and everything to lose, and his other title going out the window.
Right. The title's been declared vacant. You know, on January 21st in Colombia, they're going to match 2 guys, one of whom Canizales already beat, Juvenal Berrio versus Harold Mestre for that vacant title.
Interesting fight indeed as we'll see who can be the king of the hill of the bantamweights, as Gonzalez has vacated the 118 division. 122, he had a little struggle getting to that weight.
There was a little bit, I won't say controversy, but some disagreement over exactly how much Canizales weighed at the weigh-in yesterday. His crew said 122 and a half. Vasquez's people said 123, whatever. He disappeared for an hour, came back. He rode an exercise bicycle, came back at 121 and a half. So he made the weight comfortably, but he also spent a half hour in the steam room yesterday morning.
We talked to Orlando on several of other fights, and he said he always had kind of a walk-around weight of 130, 135 is about as high as he ever got.
Oh, yeah, I don't think he's going to weep for that 118-pound belt. I think he's glad to be out of the division.
He saw him land a pretty good combination on the champion. Gonzalez using a lot of movement here in round number 1, just trying to feel out the champion. Vasquez, who throws a wild left hand and misses.
Well, I think we're going to see that Canizales is the faster fighter here. Vasquez not very quick. I watched his fights with Terry Jacob, but a good right hand there, and Canizales shook his head after he got hit with it.
Well, Vasquez has the knockout power, 32 knockouts in his 41 wins.
Right, and he's an attrition fighter. He'll wear you down because he's strong. He's not very quick, but that's going to be the biggest hurdle for Canizales. This is the bigger man that he's fighting and a man who wins on strength.
Vasquez with 17 of those 32 knockouts inside the first 3 rounds. 4 in the first, 7 second, and 6 in the third.
Now, Canizales will have a problem if he finds that his hand speed is not quicker enough, if you understand what I mean, to counteract the strength advantage that Vasquez is definitely going to have.
That's quick.
Something like that. I'll try that again in English.
That's right. We'll translate that shortly. And this may be, as Wally has pointed out early on in our conversation before the fighters got in, could be a very difficult fight to score, because you'll almost see, even though Canizales will have more of the movement, you see almost the same type punching power with these two. If Canizales has enough of a punching power at this weight is the big question right now.
Right, because he was not showing a lot of punching power at 118 toward the end. That could have been part of not making the weight. And I'll tell you something else. Vasquez has shown us a couple of things in this round that does not bode well for Canizales. He's been able to hit him repeatedly with right hands.
Winging left hand by the champion, misses. Canizales moving here as we near the end of round one. First 3 minutes is in the record book here of a scheduled 12-rounder, and you can already tell by the reaction of the crowd, the opening act tonight is indeed going to be a tough act to follow.
Oh, you're not kidding. But I'm sure these two guys are going to heat up.
Set that up and then turn on him, pivot on him and crack him. I want your jab to touch his body. You hit him with a good right hand to the body. Make him conscious of the body, John. And double your jab. You're trying to counter over one jab. Double it up.
Jesse Reed, the trainer in front. Jesse Reed Jr., the one working on the inswell on the right eye, right cheek of Canizales. These are the champion's entourage around him. And literally hundreds of others throughout the stands tonight.
He also brought the Wilfredo Vazquez orchestra with him, sitting right behind the corner.
When Charlo comes out, I'm leaving, okay?
Oh, I'll stay for that.
Okay. The champion on his stool. The challenger also using the full time. Champion waiting even to the first couple of seconds of the round to get out of there. Mr. Ramos kind of motioned to the corner as they come out, and this is round two.
Canizales has been around too long to be worried by what Vasquez did in the first round, but he's got to start thinking about what he can do to avoid that right hand, because that's the punch that'll wear him down.
High title defense by the champion. Vasquez, by the way, has been 10 rounds 15 times, and 9 of those have gone to the full 12 rounds. So he is a man that likes the duration of fights.
Right, not worried about the distance. Neither one of these guys is. Canizales has been in this many, many times, and I think they both are pretty much resigned to the fact they're not going to have many early knockouts at this stage of their career. They're going to be here a little while.
Chan Yong Park was the man that lost the title of the WBA 118 bantamweight title back in October of '87 in Korea in a 10th round knockout in the first title that Vasquez won at 118. Later came on and won the WBA junior featherweight title in March of '92 from Raul Perez. A third round knockout as he became the two-time world champion. Good right hand by the champion. Gonzalez may have slept it off.
Also a right uppercut. Canizales looks quicker to me this round than he did in the first round, but he's still getting hit with some of those shots. And after a while, you're talking about a natural, I believe, junior featherweight in Vasquez and a natural bantamweight in Canizales.
Vasquez gives you that typical turn that left shoulder to you. Doesn't really give you a squared up look, which means that Canizales has to use that motion of his to kind of get squared up and throw a good punch.
And even if you look at the two fighters physically, it appears that Vasquez is a stronger, more muscular fighter. Canizales has never been a very physical fighter on the inside. He really relies on long-range shots. Reminds me a little bit of Alexis Arguello in that way.
I love the description you gave of Vasquez and the fact that he is very economical with his energy, and the fact that 33 years of age, I guess you have to certainly become one, and he's very economical with the punches. He throws them when he needs to. Doesn't overexert himself, certainly early on in this fight in the second round.
And having passed my 33rd birthday, a couple of days ago or more, I know the value of conserving energy.
By the way, when you go out for the run, when you run out 5 miles, you have to ride back. No buses. That's not allowed here.
I can't.
Vasquez again trying to answer the countering attack, or at least the pursuing attack at the moment of Canizales, who is the aggressor in this fight.
Right now, Canizales is fighting a smart fight. He's fighting the fight that Kevin Kelly did not fight. He's keeping his distance, landing 1 and 2, and getting out of danger, which is the way he's going to have to beat this guy.
Closing seconds of a rather uneventful second round. Crowd kind of setting on their hands right now, anticipating bigger and better things to happen. After being well entertained for 10 rounds in the opening fight. Well, both the fighters again will answer the bell on their stools, saving that energy in between rounds as we head for the third of a scheduled 12-round WBA Junior Featherweight Championship in San Antonio. Sam Smith, along with the boxing writer of the New York Post, Wally Matthews, with us tonight on Cedric Kushner Sports Network. The favorite in this fight belongs to Canizales. You mentioned 2-1. Didn't stand up 2-1 for Kelly in the first one, though, as he loses on his stool at the end of 10.
Really, this place has been a graveyard of champions tonight. There's been a lot of upsets.
Canizales again using that good movement he's had throughout the first 2 rounds. Fought with a pretty good left hand by a lead left by the champion. The right hand thrown over the top by Vasquez just bounces off Canizales.
Canizales fighting a smart fight. This is the way a veteran is supposed to go in and fight a fight. With a cool head, not looking to impress the crowd, not looking to prove his macho. I don't want to get down on Kevin Kelly, who I thought fought a tremendously gutsy fight. But had he fought a fight like this, it might have been different with Gonzalez. Maybe not, but it would have been more to his liking.
Both these fighters have one common opponent. That was Tony Morales. Both went 12 rounds. Both came up with victories. And I tell you what, the fight with Morales for Canizales out in Palm Springs was literally a war from the time it started to the time it ended. Morales eventually ending up in a hospital after the fight.
Morales fights that way. He makes wars because he closes the ring on you in a hurry. Now, Vasquez is not really pushing Canizales that much so far.
Another good fight for Canizales, I thought, was the fight that he won over USBA champion Eddie Rangel, also of San Antonio. Won right here in San Antonio, one of his 16 title defenses. And a very good fight for him. In addition, as we mentioned, to that Ray Medell fight of the earlier fight that we mentioned.
Well, he's been in his share of wars. I mean, don't get me wrong, but he also knows the value of fighting this way when you have to.
Fight that you and I saw him fight. He overcame several problems, including a shoulder problem, beating Bones Adams, who fought with a broken jaw, we found out. From about the 7th round on, finally they stopped the fight in the 12th with Adams losing. But Canizales literally had to fight for his life that night in Evian, France.
That's right.
Quite a beautiful Lake Geneva.
Well, I really like the water.
It was nice.
Oh, yeah. I never drank so much water.
I think my wife and I were drinking that around Switzerland for the next 2 weeks to come. Canizales trying to win a title here, but the champion, who wears the red out of Puerto Rico, is not going to get up easy here tonight, if at all.
Vasquez is a patient fighter, as you can see. He's not getting rattled. He's having a little trouble slowing Canizales down. He hasn't really cut the ring off him yet, but you get the feeling that he's confident that he will eventually.
They try to change at the end of this 3rd round. Referee Ramos separates him, and that's the end of 3. Road Extra, in association with the Cedric Cushman Sports Network, bringing you World Championship fighting from Freeman Arena here in San Antonio, Texas. It was interesting. In one of the undercards, we had the Ayala family working on, in addition to Mike Ayala and Sammy Ayala. Of course, Mr. Senior Ayala doing the job that he has done with a lot of boxers here, amateurs and pros in San Antonio for many, many years.
Oh, yeah, they are boxing in this town. They really are.
You're doing good, but you can do more. Don't be so cautious.
Surprised to hear that from Jesse Reed.
You don't want to be so cautious with yourself. Get a little busier with your hands and get him into a fight. This guy's an old man. Make him work. I don't mean run into something, but get him working.
Well, Jesse Reed trying to throw a little bait out there. Let's see if the 29-year-old Orlando Canizales grabs it here as we head for the 4th round. Canizales, who was the reigning IBF bantamweight champion when he headed for the ring, now just a challenger for the champion Wilfredo Vazquez as they fight for the WBA junior featherweight title. Now, more activity from Canizales in the round. What do you think?
Well, you know, I was surprised to hear Jesse Reed give him that kind of advice, especially this early in the fight, because Vasquez is dangerous, and he can hit pretty hard. You know, I'm surprised that he was basically telling his fighter to take no chances.
Warning on holding behind the head by Vasquez.
Obviously, Jesse Reed's got less respect for Vasquez than you and I do right now.
By the way, he mentioned at 33 he's an old man.
Well, it's all relative.
Wait a minute. Time out.
Depends on what you're doing for a living.
Let's get a second opinion. Canizales, who, by the way, is older brother Gabby, not working in the corner, but he is within earshot of what's going on in that corner as he leans in with a great deal of interest.
Boy, he was a tremendous puncher. Yeah. That was the one thing he could do was to bang.
And you talk about the heart of a bulldog. Both of them had it, and still do for Canizales here in Orlando.
Very different fighter from his brother, Gabby Canizales was.
And I think in some respects that's great for Orlando. He really kind of found his own shtick. It wasn't the fact, well, I try to emulate my brother. He never tried to do that.
And smart, because you know what? He's really not built for it. That was a good right hand.
Indeed. Canizales staying up on those toes, bobbing and weaving, throwing the combination, missed with both of those, but just lets the champion know they're still there after he landed early on. By the way, Mr. Scorekeeper, what have you got for you with the first 3 rounds here?
I've got 2 for Canizales, 1 for Vasquez. I gave Vasquez the first round. I thought Canizales outboxing the next 2. I think he's outboxing him right now.
He is. The right hand again by Canizales as Vasquez tried to work his way in with a couple of jabs, and Canizales hit him with the right hand.
I'm kind of surprised at Vasquez. He's very patient, but he can't win a tactical war with this man, I don't think. I think that Canizales is the better all-around fighter. I think that Vasquez should really be trying to rough him up a little bit. Ooh, that was a pretty good counter right.
Was indeed. Vasquez again just waiting for Canizales to come in and trying to do what he can. Neither fighter has been on the ropes so far here in the first 3.5 rounds. As you see, we near the 30-second mark, or under that now in round 4. But the crowd getting a little bit antsy, wanting a little something to happen after that great opening fight we had on our card tonight of the World Championship, going from Kevin Kelly to a young man out of Mexico by the name of Gonzalez. Mark it down. He will be around for a while.
After 100 years of fabulous football, your dreams have been answered. Every game, every club, every week. With more news.
I wonder what goes through George Foreman's mind when he hears Jesse Reed saying, "This guy's an old man."
That's right.
Excuse me?
He just smiles and looks at his bank book again.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting comments. If we have a little time inside the fight, I might get your comments on the expected release later on this spring of one Mike Tyson and what might happen down the road with George Foreman and others.
Boy, oh boy, that's a fight that's just too big not to happen. You know it's going to happen.
Those are the big guys. Right now, the junior featherweights are sharing the spotlight around the world. And Vasquez now apparently has kind of picked up the tempo himself here, Wally.
Right. Now we see a little bit more pressure from Vasquez. You can see there that he's a lot slower than Canizales, but he's throwing more to the body now, which is what he needs to do to take some of the legs out from Orlando.
You know, Orlando starts making that charge ahead, throws a good left jab, but then he's just kind of polarized with the left jab of Vasquez.
Right, and now he's starting to get into some exchanges here, which I'm not sure is the best thing for Orlando's health. He's a lead right.
You know, if you watch Vasquez's eyes, the one thing he's watching is the belt buckle. Having played a great deal of basketball in my early years, one of my coaches...
Before you were an old man.
Before we were both old men, I will add. One of my great coaches that I certainly enjoyed in my life early on was, he said, just watch the guy's belt buckle, because that goes, he goes. I mean, he can't go without his belt buckle, and that's exactly what Vasquez is doing.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I know some fighters look into the eyes, some look at the shoulders.
Well, look at his eyes. He kind of cuts down right almost to the waistline. And
yeah. Maybe he's able to pick up some muscular movement in there that tells him when Canizales is going to throw.
Now that is being very, so we say, specialized.
I would say so.
Activity of Canizales encouraged by Reed. What do you think here in round 5, Wally?
Well, I just think that this is a more dangerous fight for Canizales. I noticed that he's getting hit more, and he's getting hit to the body. And I don't know. I liked him better when he was boxing, although the fight wasn't as interesting.
Seeing banging in there was a head. Canizales, by the way, had a no contest in his career. Derek Whiteboy out of South Africa in June of 1993. They were anticipating that to be a great fight, and Whiteboy out of South Africa thought he had a pretty good chance of winning. It was stopped in the third. A accidental headbutt opened up the gash over the left eye, and Canizales was not able to continue, and thus not finishing the third round. It was called a no contest, and you hear the boos coming down from this crowd. It wants a little bit more action here.
I think they've been spoiled a little bit.
That first fight was indeed a dandy.
Well, this is not an exciting fight, but it's an interesting fight, and especially if you understand the tactics that these two guys are trying to use on one another. I mean, Canizales may be walking a tightrope by working this close to Vasquez.
Trying to double left jab and then follow with a right cross. Straight right hand is scored occasionally. Vasquez at 33 still has a little quickness on those feet. And we know he still possesses a pretty good punch as they near the end of round 5.
Estamos bien, sí.
Encerrado, ganate fácil, ¿eh? Voy con un poquito de agua.
Voy con confianza.
Voy con un poquito de agua.
A meter la combinación. Pero ganate fácil.
Not a lot of concern going on in that corner right now, Wally.
The fighter looks very calm. He doesn't really seem to be winded or anything. They're working under his eyes a little bit. Not speaking Spanish, I can't tell you what these people are saying.
On the other side, Orlando Canizales.
Yes.
They are working on that little nick now on the outside of the right eye.
Well, I think that nick has widened somewhat because it looked like it was hurting Canizales a little bit when they stuck the Q-tip in there.
Swing here.
We first see that in the 4th or 5th round, Wally.
Get your momentum.
I believe we saw it at the beginning of the 4th round.
This is round number 6 of a scheduled 12-round title fight. 8,000 plus looking on here tonight in San Antonio at Freeman Coliseum on the Cedric Kushner Sports Network for the WBA Junior Featherweight Championship. The champion in the red, Vasquez, battles the challenger, a former champion, and a bantamweight moving up in weight, Orlando Canizales. Canizales being encouraged by his corner to be more active. Very calm, very cool, and holding on to his picking of the punches to throw by Vasquez so far through the first 5 rounds.
We see now that Canizales is back on his toes, is trying to keep his distance. I don't think that was a very good round for him in the 5th round. I think he got hit more than either he or Jesse Reed would have liked. Oh, a good right.
Good right indeed. Vasquez just ducked right over Flora. That's one thing that's great to see. Certainly everybody likes to see the big heavyweights knock each other around, but you see the good infighting, the quickness of the punches of the lighter weights. And certainly these two guys have good hand speed.
And the clean, crisp punching that a lot of times you don't see with heavyweights. You do sometimes, but a lot of times you see a lot of clubbing shots. You don't see too many shots like that right up the cut that Canizales just landed.
Move right on up through, of course, the lightweights and the middleweights. And you start to see, not that you don't have big cannons in those divisions, into the welterweight, cruisers, light heavy, and into the heavyweights. So these little guys punch a pretty good punch. But accumulation of punches is 9 times out of 10 the rule for the lighter weights.
You know what? There's only a handful of fighters in any division who can knock a guy out with one punch. That's what made Tyson so exciting. That's what makes Foreman so exciting. But even Evander Holyfield had very, very few one-punch knockouts.
Well, I might as well ask you, will that fight happen? Tyson and Foreman?
Absolutely. There's just too much money for it not to. And I really believe that Foreman thinks he could beat Tyson. I think he thinks it's Joe Frazier all over again.
How many fights does Tyson have to have before he does it?
Oh, gee, I don't know. I would think 2 or 3. As many as he needs, but I don't think he'll need many.
Clock's winding on Foreman, though, right?
But the asset that Foreman has doesn't seem to be going away with age, and that's the punch and the chin.
Speaking of punches and chins going on in the 6th round, Canizales still kind of pecking away, but Vasquez still showing that he's still there.
Vasquez landed a good left and right, and now it's time to start watching whether or not Canizales hits hard enough to hurt Vasquez, because if Vasquez begins to believe he can't be hurt, he's just going to come forward and walk right through Canizales.
And again, the punching power moving up from a bantamweight up to the junior featherweight. Not that big from 118 to 122, but again, it can be a mountain to climb if you don't have the punch to carry yourself. And as Wally pointed out, to earn the respect of your opponent. Both fighters throwing wild punches, and the bell sounds, and we are halfway through this world title fight.
You know, it may not seem like much, the 4 pounds, but when you're talking about men who weigh 118 pounds, that 4 pounds does make a difference. It's not like heavyweights.
You won't win a title that way. You are down by 1 round. You've got to start working yourself and start putting this guy is slow. Get your body working and get that body punching and back him up. You're waiting to counter off his stuff. Don't counter off his stuff. You start being the aggressor.
Close your eyes. Just relax. Fine.
Are you listening to me? Orlando, you've got to be more aggressive. More aggressive. Come on now, son. Don't sit there and look for 1 and 2 shots.
Continue to call for that more aggressive style.
Jesse Reed is worried that they would lose, what they call a champion's decision, whereby you have to take the title from the champion, and obviously he doesn't think Canizales is doing it.
And Canizales has been on the favorable side of that himself in those 16 title defenses, maybe somewhere along the way.
Oh, I would think more than once.
As they come out to answer the bell in round number 7. First 6 rounds going pretty much as expected. Crowd wanting a little bit more. Both fighters, of course, showing the respect of one another. As Wally pointed out, if Vasquez ever finds out that Canizales' punches do not hurt, it could be a beginning of a defense here by the champion. But right now, Canizales still staying very much in it. Is he down by 1 round?
I have it 3-3. So obviously, Jesse Reed and I have scored 1 round differently.
Okay.
I'm going to have to ask which one it was.
And there's the rub with the 3 judges at ringside.
Forgot about them.
How quickly they go away sometimes.
Well, we didn't need them in the last fight.
You know, when you stop to think of the bantamweight record that was broken, Manuel Ortiz, by the way, had the record of 16 defenses of his bantamweight title, the most ever in that division by Orlando Canizales. And everywhere along the way, there was always some brash young star, not like the new gunfighter in the block, that said, I'll take this guy, and they never could put him away.
No, they couldn't, you know, and that happens, especially when a guy's been around for a long time. Young fighters think they see a flaw. They think that they can exploit the age or the fact that he's had so many fights. And I tell you, that's a tribute to Canizales and how adaptable and durable he's been. That was a big left hook by Canizales inside.
Canizales starting to, he's still trying to stay as active as he can, still with that respect for the outside. They pretty well got each other measured. Pretty good right hand by Vasquez, just skipping off the chin that time of Canizales.
And there you see Vasquez with that slight reach advantage. He's been able to reach Canizales when Canizales, I think, believed he was out of range.
One minute to go in round 7. Vasquez lashing out with the left hand and tried 2 or 3 more that were a little weak in comparison to the first one. Still flipping that left jab right in the face of Canizales, who scores again with a left hand and a right hand right behind it.
I seem to sense a little frustration in Canizales for some reason. I'm not sure why. Maybe because he's being hit with those counters that he probably thinks he should not be getting hit with.
Well, there's also a factor as well at this stage of some of his fights. I'll say some. He had the 118 opponent starting to wearing down on him.
Right.
Vasquez saving his energy. Still maybe the stronger the fighters at this stage. And he's still staying right with it.
Well,
taking some punches.
Could be that Orlando is in that position in this fight.
Yep.
That many of his opponents were in. That he's going to be the guy to get worn down.
And you see him still throwing the combinations at the end of round number 7.
Punches. Come on, stand back. Let's go.
Mr. Ramos breaking in for one of the few times at the end of the 7th round. Thrown extra. Cerveza Maspina bringing you world championship fighting here.
Is waiting for him. You let him sit. He's going to hit you and keep you off balance. Inside, get off right away. You don't have to load up. Start acting like you're shadow boxing. Pop, 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 pop. 4 and 5 shots.
Close your eyes.
To get back into this fight, son. You're down right now. We got to get back into it.
Reach down.
Reach for it, son.
It's there. Shoulders. Reach down.
Well, there's one thing about it out of the Jesse Reed corner over there with Orlando Canizales. As we take a look at some of the action in the 7th. Good right hand by Vasquez. They're very realistic. They know they're down by 2, and they've got to pass that message along.
Well, I agree that they're down, but, you know, you never know. Jesse Reed may be trying to motivate the fighter, tell him you're losing, always tell him that they're behind. It makes them try harder. But it sounds to me like he really believes that.
4 and 5 together, son. Let's start taking charge now.
This is round number 8 of a scheduled 12-round WBA Junior Featherweight Championship fight from San Antonio. Like 8,000 packing in. They've already seen one champion fall tonight as Kevin Kelly lost his WBC Featherweight Championship to Alejandro Gonzalez out of Mexico. A young 21-year-old banger that came in here and just literally would not be stopped. And he wins as Kelly finishes on his stool at the end of 10 and didn't answer the bell. Now the defending champion here, Vasquez, is battling the challenger. Canizales, the former champion, stepping up in weight.
Crowd very restless, but I'll tell you what, if there's anybody to point a finger at, it's Vasquez, because he's really not forcing the action. It seems as if he knows that the close rounds are probably going to go his way because he's the champion, and he's not taking a lot of chances.
By the way, we have not mentioned Sergio Reyes as a name that might be used as far as a trivia coming up. I'll elaborate on that in a moment as they exchange in the center round. Pretty good right hand by Canizales. Comes back with the left hand.
And Vasquez sagged a little bit after one of those rights.
And he was able to counter back with one of his own left hands, but Canizales definitely hurt the champion for a moment. Reyes, by the way, is the man that fell At the end of 12 rounds, it went the full 12 for the decision, was the 16th title defense by Orlando Canizales, October 15th of this past year, and that was the record in the bantamweight division.
And you know what? A lot of people thought Sergio Reyes won that fight. He got up off the deck in the 6th round and fought a heck of a second half of the fight. Now they're talking about him maybe meeting the winner here tonight.
Canizales, Vasquez, center of the ring. Couple of inches away from each other. Closest they have stayed for this long, almost throughout the entire fight.
And you would think that this would be where Vasquez would do most of his damage, but he's being picked apart on the inside this round by Canizales.
By the way, we're also finding out that Canizales' bag work was a little slower than normal because he wanted to go pat, 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 pat. And right now he's being able to throw some combinations, but not like Jesse Louis probably wanted him to do.
Well, it looks like he's doing some heavy bag work here.
He's doing a little better there.
I think he's doing pretty good on the inside here. I'm surprised that Vasquez hasn't taken more advantage of the fact that Canizales has stood still.
Vasquez may be taking a little bit of a rest in this 8th round, and it's costing him a round, that's for sure, as Canizales has had a pretty good solid 8.
This is the best round that Orlando's had in quite a while.
Vasquez, by the way, with just a little nick on the outside of the left eye. You've been seeing the right eye Canizales being worked on in the corner, but nothing of any consequence whatsoever in this fight so far. Exchanging those good fist left jabs here even in the 8th round as Vasquez staggers. Orlando for just a moment may have stumbled, but he did get hit with a right hand.
Well, you know what? He got a little happy with success there. Remember, the good 1-2 came in for another shot and got tagged.
This 8th round has concluded here in this title fight.
The Ericsson Cup, live every week only on Australia's soccer station, Sports
Here's
Australia.
round 9 of a scheduled 12-round title fight. Champion coming center stage in the right in the red. Wilfredo Vazquez, 33 years of age, out of Puerto Rico. Orlando Canizales, Laredo, Texas, 29 years of age. And both these fighters have indeed enjoyed the success of their careers. And there's still more to go for one or the other tonight, as one will walk out either as the defending champion or as a new 2-time champion.
Well, this is a pretty close fight. I mean, I think whoever loses is certainly not finished and probably has a good case for a rematch, although I'm not sure too many people would pay to see it again.
The crowd has been very, very quiet after that first fight. By the way, at the end of the 8th round, let me kind of correct myself, they did kind of come to life at the end of the 8th round, appreciating the action in the 8th.
And the 8th round was the best round of the fight so far, so maybe the gentlemen are getting heated up a little bit.
We got winging right hand thrown over the top by Canizales.
That's not to say that it's been a bad fight. It's just been a tactical fight. And after if you just watched a blitzkrieg, you're not really ready to watch a chess match.
I made mention of those 9 of his last 13 fights by knockouts by Vasquez. One came in the 12th, another came in the 8th, another in the 10th, and I believe it's another in the 7th round. So
well, that points to the fact that he does, and there was a good right hand by Vasquez, but that he wears his opponents down. Well, he just missed with a left hook.
Canizales kind of flexed his jaw that time to make sure everything was all right.
There.
Now they exchange. Good uppercut that time by Canizales. Canizales starting to pick up a little steam here in the 9th round, maybe. Vasquez has to try to pull him back if he's going to try to maintain this title here tonight.
This is generally the part of the fight where Vasquez's strength starts to take over on the opponent. Now we're going to see if Canizales has what it takes to move up right here in these next couple of rounds. But this is when he's going to start to feel the strength difference.
Probably did 11 and 12 of those 16 title defenses by Orlando Canizales, and at this stage of the game also there was an inside gut move by Orlando several times. We saw him come back and he won the last 2 or 3 rounds to successfully defend his title.
Oh, a big right hand by Vasquez. You're absolutely right. I mean, there's no doubt that Canizales is a warrior. It's just that sometimes you go to war with an opponent that's a little bit more, has a little more firepower than you do.
And Vasquez has certainly shown that he has had that in his career. 2-time champion. Won the bantamweight 118 title February '86. Lost that, came back to win the WBA junior featherweight title in March of '92. Now makes his 9th title defense tonight.
It's got to be encouraging to the Canizales camp that he was able to take 2 very big right hands this round from Vasquez with no real effect.
Canizales trying to wing that left lead. Hasn't thrown the right hand a great deal as the bell sounds here to end round 9.
how we're working. Come on, that's the only way we're going to win this fight. Look at me. You're still down by 2 points. You're still down by 2 points. Take the top off. Take the top off. Give him some water. There we go. Look at me. I want these next rounds, all of them. I don't want you waiting. I want you to take charge. All right.
Canizales is getting very tired in there. He was almost begging for that water bottle.
That's it. Now look at me.
We saw Phil Borgia literally fighting with his fighter, Kevin Kelly, and I thought Canizales was going to fight Reed for a little water there for a moment.
I don't know how much strength he's got left to fight Reed with. You know, it's interesting that Jesse Reed felt that Canizales won that round. I didn't think so, but he still thinks that Canizales is down by 2.
Well, as they enter the 10th round, speaking of a little water and a little what's still in the tank, that'll be the big question here for this WBA Junior Featherweight Championship, as we have it relatively close as we go to this 10th round. With the champion again trying to successfully defend for the 9th time, and then Canizales trying to step up for a new title. Straight lead lad, double left jab that time by Canizales. Vasquez has almost been exactly a carbon copy from round 1 or 2. He hasn't really changed a great deal from the first early round.
Yeah, there was one point in the middle where he seemed to be turning up the pressure a little bit, or I think I wrote it down as round 6 and 7. He seemed to show a little bit more pressure, but for the most part, he's fought a pretty passive fight.
Canizales, there's no doubt about it in the fact that he has come up to 122. You still see him jumping around, doing a good job. Excellent condition here as we enter the 10th. Not to say that Vasquez is not.
But the point is a good one. Clearly, the extra 4 pounds hasn't slowed down Canizales at all.
But it has not given him extra strength either yet.
No, it doesn't seem to have added very much to his punching power. And yet, you know, on the plus side, he hasn't been hurt. He's taken the best shots from Vasquez so far.
He has indeed. I guess we better hold our opinions until we ask Vasquez if he had any punching power tonight, huh?
Right. I think he's in the best position to make that judgment.
Probably will be able to tell us. Larry Merchant, by the way, will be in the ring with the winner and, I would assume, the loser. At the end of this fight, we'll find both sides of the camp to tell us what went on during this war inside. That has been rather quiet compared to that first fight we had tonight. With Kevin Kelly losing his title. Everybody in the building thought it was going to be a foregone conclusion with a 2-1 favorite to win it maybe around the 7th or 8th, but
almost everyone.
Alejandro Gonzalez.
Yeah, I think he had a different opinion.
Stepped in, dropped Kelly in the 6th, was dropped himself in the 8th, came back and won it as Kelly, with a swelling right eye, didn't answer the bell for the 11th round. Good left hand by the champion. Canizales walking through it now. Now it becomes the situation now. Does Vasquez have the power that Canizales is starting to say, hey, it's not as much as I thought it might be.
He really has not been able to hurt Canizales. That left hook, I thought Canizales pulled back from a little bit, but he did land 2 big right hands last round. And he really didn't even get a blink out of Canizales.
Good exchange by the champion. Vasquez does not keep Canizales from coming straight ahead. Caught that one right on the forehead.
A nice short right hand by Canizales.
Vasquez starting to show a little bit more respect for Canizales as he definitely is going backwards now in this team.
That's right.
Something he had not done for a majority of his fight.
He'll also be getting tired being an old man.
Yeah, that's he's got to define this old pretty soon, you know? And it almost sounded like a fire drill going on in the champion's corners. They're really trying to pump this 33-year-old champion up here for this 11th round.
Right. You know, judging by what we've seen earlier with Kelly and Gonzalez, you know, this fight has certainly been a disappointment. I think people expected more exchanges between the two of them. But I think part of that is the fact that, to me, Canizales is fighting a smart tactical fight, although he may not be punching enough for Jesse Reed's liking. I've got to fight 5-5 right now, and if he takes the last 2 rounds, as far as I'm concerned, he can take the title.
Well, Vasquez starting to back up. It actually started around the 9th after a very close 8th round. Probably one of the best. They fought very close and had some good inter-fighting. And Canizales has started to back the champion up.
Vasquez seemed tired to me in his corner there. He looks very passive.
Right.
And he has for most of the fight.
He's he's a little hesitant even to throw punches right now, Wally, the champion. It's as he's just letting Canizales come in, but not able to counter him at the moment.
Well, you know, you can say maybe it's the speed of Canizales, although I don't think the speed difference is as much as I expected it to be before the fight started. He may just be having a flat night. You know, we've been making jokes all night about him being an old man, but 33 is kind of advanced for a fighter. He may just be having an off night.
Canizales, in addition to that great record that he held with 16 title defenses, was also named by the IBF as their Fighter of the Year in 1993. And, of course, based mostly on the great success he had in those title defenses of the bantamweight title, which now is a thing of the past. Canizales, very relentless in his charge here.
That was a good right to the body there by Canizales.
Has he done enough body work tonight?
He hasn't done very much of it. I'll tell you, you've got a fighter who's a bit older and a fighter who seems to have been sluggish from the beginning. You might want to test him to the body a little bit.
Vasquez is almost arm punching right now. He's trying to keep Canizales off of him and backpedaling into a corner again.
You know, Jesse Reed can say what he wants to motivate his fighter, but right now it seems to me like Canizales wants his title more.
You can hear them encouraging just to our right for the champion Vasquez, but getting much of a response from him. Now he's starting to stand and fight in the center of the ring.
I just realized something earlier. We haven't heard the tambourines for a couple of rounds, so you know,
a little quiet.
I think the band went home. I don't know what that's all about.
But looping left hand by, again, the champion. Just no response on the other end as Canizales just kept bobbing and weaving in front of him and coming straight ahead. Canizales digging that left hand to the body again.
See, now the way I score a fight, I think you got to give this round to Canizales. But who knows? You know, some judges may automatically give a close round to the champion, so it's tough to predict what they're doing over there.
Well, they're definitely going to the 12th and final round of this world title fight.
Ok, no podemos coger una mano ninguna. Vamos a boxear 3 minutos de tu vida, Wilfredo, por favor, ok? Atiéndeme.
Leading
Okay?
with the champion.
Vamos a boxear. No podemos coger una mano.
Yeah, Wilfredo, please. That doesn't sound too good. Even I understood that.
Yes. I mean, dig. Turn that body and dig. Come on now, son. This is your whole life right here. This is what you've been waiting for.
Wilfredo, salte de eso amarillo. No toca y ponlo a él ahí. Tú no ahí. Ok?
Boy, you can really see how the momentum has definitely changed in this fight. On the other side, they're really encouraging Canizales to finish it. They're pleading with the champion just to try to fight on.
Take him out.
It's interesting. We have two corners who think that guy is losing. Somebody's got to be winning this fight. Maybe it's the referee.
Well, speaking of the referee, Rafael Ramos will bring him to the center of the ring. They'll touch gloves, and they're underway for the WBA Junior Featherweight Championship in the 12th and final round. As we go to the 12th, Wally, you've got it how?
I've got Canizales ahead now by 1 point. And I'll tell you, it's been tough for me to score this fight because the round's been very close. And pretty much I've been giving one to him, one to him, one to him. That's the way they've gone almost. I don't think anybody's won 2 in a row on my card except for the last 2.
I think it's marvelous you've been scoring. You've been over there sulking about being old. I haven't figured it out.
It's tough. It really is to deal with this age problem, this midlife crisis, and score a fight at the same time.
33-year-old Wilfredo Vazquez. Does he hang on the verge of losing his title? He's held 2 of them in his life. Now Orlando Canizales is trying to get his second after giving up the one that he so successfully defended for 16 consecutive times.
Let's just hope it's in the draw.
Oh, my.
I have a feeling we're going to see it again anyway because it's going to be close either way. And I'll tell you what, if Canizales wins it, Vasquez is going to say he did not do enough to take the title. It's guaranteed.
And who's to know along the way? If you go back and look at the tape, you say, well, that round could have gone the other way.
Yeah, but, you know, the way I think is that once the bell rings, there's no champion, no challenger. If you win the round, you win the round. If you win one more round than the other guy, you take the title. That's it.
You know, I think what is shown in this fight more than anything in the world certainly is if Canizales does win, his desire, and it's also going to be, and you hit it right off the top of the show, 33 years of age is going to be a telltale sign. 4 years younger is Canizales, and maybe that's what the dividends are right now.
Well, there's no doubt that Vasquez is slower. It seems to be evident that he's had less energy throughout the fight. He's been pretty sluggish except for a few spurts there. And, you know, maybe Jesse Reed is right. Canizales is fighting an old fighter. Not an old man, but an old fighter. Please, what does it mean for us?
I refuse to answer any more of these questions.
Take the fifth.
That's right. Or a Corona, whichever comes first.
Take both. In the meantime, this is another close round, another difficult one to score, but in my eyes, Canizales has been the aggressor.
Yeah, it's almost like is the judge, does he like counterpunching? If he does, Vasquez has had a few, but not enough. Does he like an aggressive fighter? Well, Canizales would have that. So, again, it depends on what side of the ring and how the judges will score here on now what they like in a fighter.
Right. Canizales has clearly made the fight. And I think if you took all the clean punches and added them up, I think that more of them came from Canizales. Nobody's really been hurt, and at that point, it's truly a tough fight to score.
Closing seconds of round 12. Could it be a new world title for Orlando Canizales? Or a tough defense of the title by Wilfredo Vazquez? 8,000 would love to see it come to a close abruptly, but it's not going to happen as there's the bell, and we've got to go to the cards.
Well, on my card, I got Canizales by 2 again. The last 3 rounds, and as far as I'm concerned, he should win the fight.
Just virtually everybody from Puerto Rico is now in the ring as they surround what they feel is their champion, and Jesse Reed Jr. is listing the man up that they feel has won the title here tonight.
Jesse Reed Jr., of course, is not an old man, and he's still capable of doing things like that.
He is indeed, but he still calls me sir, which is, I got to...
That's because he's a young man. Of course he calls me sir.
This crowd again of more than 8,000, and of course his hometown of Laredo here in big numbers tonight as they took busloads up. Canizales, again, as I made mention, one of his biggest fights of all, stopping Billy Hardy in their rematch in the 8th round in the heat of Laredo with more than 5,000 there. One of the national television networks on and looking on, but that is now history as there's a new page maybe to be written.
He doesn't look very confident to me, I'm sorry.
Vasquez looked a little lower than it did when he opened up this whole thing, didn't it? Canizales looking very comfortable across the way.
You know, one side is going to be unhappy with this decision, no matter which way it goes. It's a close fight, and you can argue it either way. I just think Canizales did enough to win the fight. I wasn't thrilled by it, but I was interested all the way through. And, you know, if the judges watch it the way I did, I think Orlando wins it.
Well, reluctantly, the Puerto Rican band starts to strike out, but I think you can kind of hear that their enthusiasm is not quite what it was when this fight started.
Dude, I mean, now they're playing ballads, which is not really...
Inviting each other to dance. Vasquez at 33. If he does lose this, you made mention that obviously it's not the end of the world for him, but you'd have to signal that this might be the telltale signs that yeah, the career is getting close.
Absolutely. Like we said in the Kelly fight, fighters give you clues about which way they're going. I think this is a clear clue that Vasquez is headed downhill. But I do think that he's got a strong case for a rematch if he loses the fight.
And Canizales has certainly answered a big question of himself as well. Can he step up in weight and certainly handle a little bit more power of Vasquez? Certainly he did here tonight and started to show a little bit of his own, but maybe not enough in this division.
And you know what? It could be very difficult for him when he gets in with a young junior featherweight.
Gotcha. Kind of matches the speed and the quickness that Canizales still has at 29.
Well, he had it tonight, but who knows if he gets in with a guy who's 25 and maybe more of a natural junior featherweight than he is, he could be into big trouble himself.
Well, they still believe that Vasquez is the champion. They're running around and feeling that their man has won here.
Wow, wonder if they got a peek at the scorecards.
Here's the decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards. Francisco Burak scores the bout 116 to 115. Roberto Ramirez scores the bout. Pardon me, Jack Woodruff scores the bout 117-113. He has it for Canizales. Burak score 116-115 is for Vasquez. And Roberto Ramirez scores the bout 115-113 for the winner by split decision. And still world champion.
So the Puerto Rican Vasquez retains his title by the slimmest of margins. But one gets the feeling Canizales is far from a spent force. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our fist